What is up, guys? In this video we are going to learn how to authenticate the local player in your game. So to start, let's go into our game view controller. How this is going to work is basically when any user signs onto the app, it's going to try to sign into the user that Game Center is logged in as, and if it's not, it's going to present a view controller that's going to allow you to put in a username, a password, or create a new Game Center account. So we're going to create this function in Game View Controller, and we're going to call this just Authenticate Local Player. And some of the syntax they have for authentication is kind of weird. It's going to be probably a little bit daunting at first, but let's go to the top here. Let's import GameKit, because this is what's going to import all of the Game Center functionality and the classes that we need to use. So we'll get to the kind of complicated bit in a bit, but we're going to say let local player equal GK local player, and GK stands for Game Center. And this is just going to create a new local player object. So now to actually authenticate this guy and say, okay, so who is this? Who's the local player? Is there a local player signed in? Should we present this view controller? We're going to call a function called Authenticate Handler. And you're going to see it has this kind of freaky type right here. In order to use this, basically what this is saying is it's going to pass out a request to Apple's servers to check the authentication. And then it's going to return that control. It's going to return a UI view controller object if the user needs to sign in. And it's also going to return an error if there happens to be an error. So for the syntax here, let's just type this out really quick. It's going to be, we're having the squiggly bracket, left parenthesis, view controller, error, with this arrow here to void, and then the keyword in. So I know that's a mouthful there. All this is saying is this is just the handler syntax. So this view controller basically is going to get returned if it's necessary for the user to log in, and an error is going to be returned if there happens to be an error in the authentication process. So we're going to say, basically, if this view controller right here is not equal to nil, so if this thing exists, we want to present this view controller. So we want to give the user an opportunity to log in with their login info. So we're going to say self.present view controller, view controller, and say because we know that the view controller is not nil, we can put that exclamation mark there saying, okay, we promise this is real. Animated, we want to put true. Basically, this just means the controller is going to move up on the screen. It's going to have a good animation. And for our completion block, we can just put nil because we don't want anything to happen after this occurs. So after this, we can just say else. Okay, so if this didn't work out, we can figure out whether or not at least the user is authenticated. So we can say print user is authenticated. Then we're going to put the colon right here, and then we're going to print out whether or not the user is currently authenticated. So we're going to say gk local player dot local player dot authenticated. So all this is a property that determines whether or not, I put in that quotation mark there. It's going to tell us whether or not the local player is or is not authenticated, which might help us with some debugging if anything bad comes up. I don't think anything will, but it's always good to put in that kind of error statement right there. So now that we've done this, let's call this function at the top here. So anytime the app is opened, it's going to call this. So authenticate local player. And now if we want to run this in the simulator, there's actually one more thing we have to do. I may have already set it up, but you're going to see probably something coming down from the top that's going to say, okay, welcome back, Michael S. Leach. So you probably won't receive that. You're probably going to receive user is authenticated and then a false right here. In order to fix this, while this iOS simulator is running, go up here to the top left, hit the stop button, and then open the simulator back up. Scroll to the left, we're going to go into the settings and we're going to sign into our Game Center account. Now this is only a problem with the simulator. If you actually run this on your iPhone, if you have a developer account, you won't run into this issue. But just for the simulator, you need to do this. So tap on Game Center, and it will probably give you some options to sign in here. So sign into your Apple account, your Game Center account, and it should log you into Game Center. So in the next video, we'll actually be presenting the Game View Control, the GameKit View Controller, and that is going to allow us to save our score online, and ultimately we'll be able to save and compare scores with friends.